Hello, and welcome to the amusement park. I'm Carla. I am the host of this podcast, and I am also the CEO and founder of Ethers Cosmos. You can find more information about Ethers at www.etherscosmos.com. That's ETHEIRSCOSMOS.com. I attempt, and my tagline is to be a source of inspiration, creativity, and growth. In not in that order always, but that's the gist of it. This is the first episode, and I'm hoping to continue to grow and get better from here. And today is episode 1. So I want to first say thank you for tuning in to my podcast. And I'm going to tell you a little bit about why I decided to start this podcast. I feel like I got a lot of shit to say, but ain't nobody asked me. And ain't nobody asked me because I'm a bit of a recluse and socially awkward. And I have quite a few considerations. I don't like to call them disabilities or disadvantages. I just like to call them a consideration. And Mr. Owl keeps popping in. And just in case you're wondering, why Mr. Owl keeps popping in, it is because my original background in my home is a mural that I put up on my wall. And it can be a bit distracting. So let's just go without um, the distraction for now, and we'll come back. But Mr. Owl will pop in and out, as well as several other things because it's a virtual background, but let's stay focused. So this is our flagship, and the reason why we're doing this is because I enjoy to remain creative and find things that inspire my creativity, my passion, my growth. And then that growth, I also mean spiritually, mentally, and I would like to mean physically, but I'm still working on that as of right now. So we're working on it. We're working on the trifecta: mental, physical, and spiritual. I can tell you that um, I'm excited to get this information out, if no more than to have it out for those who it could do some benefit. So the creativity part, it's all over the board, and I'll actually start looking at things around the world. Right now, I can tell you I've indulged in quite a few over my lifetime. I've indulged in quite a few creative outlets. Some stuck, some did not. Some are a fan favorite of mine, some not so much. Some of the projects that I've done has been working with acrylics, trying to make bracelets and rings with little accoutrement or things inside. That was really fun. I may do that as well uh, on the podcast. Also, I've done sewing, not in recent years. Part of the reason for that is that my vision and my hand strength has changed. And so that makes it a lot more difficult. Not to mention, I am a hobbyist at it. And so I don't know if anyone else has sewn, but cutting the patterns out, I don't like it. So no, it's really cutting the patterns out, to me, is the most tedious process, and you have to have a good surface. In which case, it's the floor. And for someone who has considerations, you can't keep getting down on the floor because you might just end up day till somebody can come get you up off the floor. Ask me how I know. Don't ask me how I know. So sewing, that was one of my, but I want to go back to it. If I could, maybe get or maybe employ someone from Fiverr to come cut all of my patterns out at the desired size, which will always be extra large or double extra large, because you can always go in. You It's very challenging from my experience to add, but it's very, very easy to subtract. Come on. As above, so below. See, this is why I wanted to do this podcast, because every time I have a concept, it's the circle of life for me. And I wanted to have a place where I could put these ramblings or these thoughts, because they might make sense to more than just me. Now, for this podcast, I'm also going to be my first unit that I'm going to be addressing is going to be my passion. This subject matter that, quite honestly, captivated me when took the first class, and it has not let me go, and that's been over 30 years ago. I'm going to say that. And this class that I'm going to attempt to teach on this podcast is anatomy and physiology. Now, this is not a teaching podcast, because on Mondays we'll do creativity. On Tuesdays, if I post, it'll be on tech. Wednesday is a grab bag, or very well maybe my day off. Thursday is the teaching day, and Friday was spirituality. Now, that's my goal schedule, but I remain flexible, because just as you saw, or just as you've witnessed or was a part of, I start talking about one thing, and then the train just keeps going down the track, and it may end up somewhere else completely off topic or veering, but not unrelated to me. This is the the train that rides 5 tracks at one time. Welcome to the amusement park. And I want to be your muse. I want to say something or share something, and it's not going to be a lot of doing. You very well may not see a lot of doing from me unless it's technology, because in terms of technology, I will do myself into a tizzy, because my favorite form of technology is the Oculus goggles. I love the Oculus Quest 2, and I am eagerly awaiting the purchase of the Oculus Quest 3. But before I get the Oculus Quest 3, guys, I'm going to rush as much as I financially can to get the Humane AI pen. It's spelled HUMANE, and it's an AI pen. It's a cell phone with no screen. It's a laptop with no screen. And I believe that it's nuance. It's nuance, it's niche, and I believe it's a little above its time. I don't know what the adaptation is going to be for this, because so many people are dopamine heavy in terms of watching a screen, looking at a screen, scrolling on a screen, just distracting yourself from whatever you need distracting from with these little screens, which brings me to my second favorite piece of tech, which is my cell phone. My cell phone is the Z. They already came out with the Z Fold 5, but this turns it from a regular phone to a cell phone. I love this thing. This is a daily item for me. The Oculus is a weekly use item. And then I have another daily use item, another daily use piece of tech, and that is my car. I consider my car to be a semi assisted device, especially because I have considerations. And so my car I use as an assistive device, because it really does help me on days when my hands and my eyes are just being a little extra. or doing what they do, because I've lived, and I have no regrets, right? So, but anyway, and that's my car. My car is a Tesla. And I think that that piece of technology is spot on, amazing. It's it's convenient luxury. It's practical opulence. It's your eyes when you can't see. It's lane assist when you can't see. It's stopping when it's an alert system. It's and I'm sure all of you're it's a million other cars that have this technology. I'm just speaking about my interaction with my vehicle that I enjoy very, very, very much. Okay. And so those are my three major pieces of technology that I use, if not daily, absolutely weekly. Now, to take it back to the Oculus Quest 2, and my favorite app on that is the Flipside app, where every room is a stage. And I plan on showcasing some of my Flipside app uh, submissions or videos, because you are the avatar. When I tell you this, I've been looking for something of that magnitude, and I was trying to develop it myself. I was attempting to learn how to code, and I had went into Unreal Engine or UE4 or UE5, and I just was attempting to learn Blueprint. Now, mind you, one of my considerations is that my memory is pretty yuckers. Not very well, not very good. And I have to write a lot of things down, but then my hands hurt. And then I would have to go try to type the things down, but then I can't see. And so when the Flipside app came out with their product, I was smitten. I love it. And if you ever wanted to be an avatar and tell jokes and be completely anonymous, I'm just saying, you wouldn't be anonymous because you're signing in under your Oculus. But my goodness, I'm going to give you a preview, maybe on one of the episodes coming up that I'm going to be teaching. And one of the things that I want to do, I want to also let you know that when I pick these glasses up or any of my glasses up is because I'm going to read something, because I can't see without it. Like right now, I'm looking at a screen. It's a screen. And I know what's on the screen because I put it on the screen. But if this was someone else's screen, it would just be pretty colors. I wouldn't be able to tell what is from what. But now I can see. Now, you may not be able to see my eyeballs because these things are pretty strong. I think they're +3 or +4. I stopped looking at the number. I just put them on, and when shit looks better, then those are the ones I buy. Oh, by the way, these are not prescription because prescriptions aren't strong enough. That's what I said. Prescriptions aren't strong enough. I am not going to get anyone to tell me my real numbers. So let's continue on with the welcome. And because I'm going to be teaching and going to be providing different resources or bits of information, one of the things I wanted to address, or at least shed a little light on, is learning styles. So many people are coming into public spaces and they're doing it for audio visual, but there are other types of learning styles. And so I want to tell you the learning styles as I know them. We have visual learners, auditory learners, kinesthetic learners, and then the reading writing learners. I tend to be a read write, and I just had this conversation with a loved one. I usually, in order to actually grasp a concept, learn it, study, because study is a word that they throw, but who really teaches you how to study? Like, if someone said, go to your room and study, it's like, do you want me to just reread it? Study is a whole nother thing. And I do have a couple notes on that as well. But study, or excuse me, reading and writing, how I do it or how I learn is I am an auditory kinesthetic that is primarily reading and writing, right? So I usually read or write a thing, probably both, 3 times. First, I read it for comprehension. Then I rewrite it in my own words from the original, right? Then I do because it's usually just a, a revision. And then at the end, I will write it one more time in the final draft of my notes. So I would have looked at it 3 times. I would have read it 3 times. I would have written it twice. Um, and all of the above. So if you haven't figured it out, I mean, I know it's just the one example, but repetition. Study means repeat it in a way that makes sense to you. And if repeating it through music, and I don't see that anyone has put music, but that would guess would be under the auditory. So let's tell you what the first learner is. The first learner is a visual learner, and visual learners like to use diagrams, mind maps, flow charts, and visual visual examples to. That was not a good example. Okay. So if it was something I was trying to learn, I would use pictures, right? That would make me a visual learner. Not so much the words, but like diagrams, mind maps, flowcharts, and things of that nature. Some people, such as myself, but it's not mandatory for me to learn, is we use color coding. I do that when I write. I do it when because I also like to dabble in writing. Use color coded highlighters or themes or topics or subject headers. Doodle and arrange your notes in a visually appealing and structured manner. So, visual learners usually need the visual notes appealing, colorful, whatever they need. So, it's very specific and very personal. You have an auditory learner, and the auditory learner, well, they will record a lecture. And I've done that before because sometimes you have to hear it again. Because when I'm testing, I can replay a conversation, I can replay the word, I can replay the lecture in my mind's media player, right? So I'm like, oh, they were standing up in the front of and when they had on their gray sweater, they said this because I remember thinking that, or that's where this note came from. So I would record the lectures when they would assist me in jogging my memory. You can do study groups as an auditory learner because in study groups, you get to talk it out, ask questions on a more basic level that maybe your instructor may, because that's the other thing is that I've noticed that when you learn and master a particular topic, going back to when you never learned it is a skill. To pretend you don't know what you know is a skill. So, and being able to take that information and teach someone who literally does not know is another skill. So auditory learners need to hear it multiple times. But again, the key is however you learn, repeat it in that language, repeat it in that manner, and you'll acquire or retain more information. Unless you have any considerations like myself, in which case you just need to keep a reference around. Huh? Yeah, okay. The next one is reading and writing, and that is myself. They need to write down detailed information in an organized manner, sometimes using lists or bullet points. They want to summarize the text or chapters or whatever it is to reinforce the learning, and they make notes in the margins. Define in the margins is I love defining in the margins. And so reading and writing for me, when I write, I'm actually in my mind, that's two different things. Because when I'm reading it and writing it, me writing is the kinesthetic portion because I am I can remember the I can remember how I was writing it. Okay. That's a bit much, but it is the truth. Okay. So the last one is a kinesthetic. And these people like flashcards, interactive apps, and different other forms of note taking that causes them to use their physical body to engage in scenarios or to imagine or propose scenarios that link the information to real life. So if you're learning about learning styles, then and before you apply it to yourself because you're still trying to figure out, wait, what are you really saying? You could observe. Oh, do you mean that's why when I saw Chandra's notebook, it was full of color and hearts and rainbows. And I'm thinking, I can't make heads or tails. Or that's when, that's why, um, maybe another colleague or fellow student does a thing um, another way, because more often than not, and this is the part that I don't think anyone really mentions a lot, or I'm not going to say they don't mention it a lot, but I'm not in circles, so I'm just stating something. Okay, but let me just stick to the facts. Not the facts, how I see it. So how I see it is that most of us are multiple learning styles. Like, I don't know if you can navigate effectively with only being one learning style, but it's absolutely possible because the human organism is a miraculous adaptive piece of technology. And I am going to stand on the platform that we are the best form of nanotechnology that this experience will ever come upon. It is adaptive, regenerative, creation. It can create new forms of expression and life. It can destroy other forms of expression and life. Um, and it is a universe within itself, and we'll get into that because I'm very passionate about anatomy and physiology. But I wanted to take a moment and discuss learning styles, because if you're going to go along with me on the ride for the anatomy and physiology information sessions, you might want to know how you learn, so that maybe while I'm speaking of the different terminology, and there will be terminology, I am going to use actual terminology, but I'm also going to how do you say, freak it a little bit, and I'm going to say it in my own words. I don't have a standard that I'm trying to reach, or a core system that I'm trying to implement. This is me and how I know or understand anatomy and physiology, and I'm also going to attempt to link it, just like you witnessed in the beginning. I nothing is There are not many things in this experience that stand alone. The interconnectedness of everything and understanding the interconnectedness of everything is paramount. And that's a whole nother topic that can take me down a long, long rabbit hole. We're going to stop there because this was just the introduction. And in the introduction, I wanted to introduce myself, tell you why I started the podcast, as well as maybe give you a little information on your learning style and how you can combine multiple learning styles, because most of us are multiple learning styles, so that you can continue learning with me. Now, I am going to say I have a good grasp of anatomy and physiology, as it is something that I adore, but I'm not going to tell you that I know it. Why? Because when I was a young girl, the heart was always supposed to be on the left side of the body. Put your right hand over your heart, and they always made you go all the way over here when you did the pledge, right? Well, it's not here anymore. You don't find it here. Now it's directly behind your breastbone, your bone. So, and then also, I mean, in non-anatomy and physiology related news, when I was a young child, Pluto was a planet. So we had songs about it. Blues Clues sung about it. The sun's a hot star. Venus is the brightest planet, Earth home to me and you. Mars is the red one, and Jupiter is most wide. Saturn's got those icy rings, and Uranus spins on its side. Neptune's really windy, and Pluto's small. Well, you wanted to know the planets, so now you know them all. You can't sing that song like that no more, because it's not a planet anymore. So I'm going to recover and rediscover the intricacies of anatomy and physiology by looking into updated information. And also, the one thing I don't think I'm going to implement is which is weird because I'm so tech heavy. I am tech heavy, guys. But what I don't think I'm going to implement is the anatomy and physiology dissection tools. I'm not really interested in that part. I am interested in, and that's a little further into it. I'm doing the basics. If that's what it means. It means I'm doing the basics, just basic structure and function. And I'm going to add into that how I think it connects to our personal well-being. Because the one thing, in my opinion, that we should master and have, and it took me way too long to get to this, or maybe not long enough. Everything is in its time. That's where we are. Everything is in its time. So I am now at a point, because no more criticism of ourselves. We're over that. We're now accepting where we are and moving forward in time. Okay. So anatomy and physiology connects to spirituality for me, because I have, since I was introduced to the topic, 100% believe that the human body is a mini universe. But we'll get into that. Can you tell how passionate I am? So, in terms of the creativity, we have things from around the world. I'll even show cultures and how they express creatively. But pretty much it'll be the creative things that I want to try, and I'll probably try them on here, or I'll discuss what happened when I tried, if I can try, or at least just, hey, did you notice or did you know, and bring some light to cultures and the culture's contribution to creativity. In terms of inspiration, it may be a quote, it may be a festival, it may be an activity, it may be a meditation, it may be some silence, it may be a reading, something to read. It may be a lot for inspiration, and it's definitely going to be technology because I am tech heavy. And then the spirituality or the growth is the end, or it's going to be in everything. So I say creativity, inspiration, and growth, but really they're all just saying the same thing because there is everything is connected. Everything is connected except for the glitchy background. Like I can't see, but in my peripheral vision of my left eye, that background is. But I'm going to come on here. I'm at least once a week with 1 or 2 days. Who knows? I might actually do 1 day a week for a half an hour because I'm not going to do a lot of pre-planning. I enjoy this topic, so it is what it is. Oh, and probably, because if you haven't noticed, I do a lot to my hair, and I'll even show pictures of how I change my hair over the weeks. We can't say months. We can't say over the weeks, baby. So I do. I mess around. And the other part that I mess around a lot in, and I don't wear it. I don't wear makeup. I would love to beat a face. I may start playing with that and find some inspiration, but I will put on a press-on nail weekly. Okay. But I can't put one on now because I'm putting my Brazilian knots in. Well, I can tell you. Oh, so I can let me know. So now I'll let you know because when I get to the front, like I have some in already. But I'm putting the rest in on this side of my head, and then I'll do this another time. Who knows? But it depends on whether or not these little phalanges let me manage. So, but in order to do the Brazilian knots, let me just tell you really quickly, since I have it on my mind, and we might not come back to it depending upon how I feel and or remember. But Brazilian knots, you need a couple things. The first thing you need, and they call it Brazilian knots, but I would even venture to call it rubber banding. You need elastic string. And the type of string matters. I would get this elastic string. You need your hair. Now I have bundle hair. It's just in a bundle. But even though it's just in a bundle, I cut it into little pieces. Now, you also need a comb, scissors, and plenty, probably 5 or 7 clips. Okay. That's it. No chemicals, no heat. I have not put heat in my hair in a long time. Now, that does not mean it is healthy and flowing all down my back because I have this much patience. So the last the last Brazilian knots I put in, I cut it off at the new growth. Say what? I did. Because I was not about to sit there and take out all those rubber bands. Who? Me? No. But this time I will, because now I'm going to get the way that I'm going to take them out is going to be a little better for me. I'm going to use a seam ripper. Como se dice? Yes. So I'm going to use a seam ripper to get them out, and that should be perfect. So there's one little piece of creativity, and I hope it inspires you to at least go see what I'm talking about. Brazilian knots, like no heat, no damage, no heat, no damage. For me, it causes me to treat my hair better. It's almost like I treat companies over. You feel me? Terrible, terrible uh way to be if I want to pass judgment on myself. But I ain't. The reality of it is that since I was a little teeny girl, I've always adorned myself with extra on my head. I don't remember a time when I wasn't putting, because my mom didn't wear wigs. She had a beautiful head of hair, but she used to get 200. She used to get somebody to come to the house back in the day, like I'm talking 80, 81, and before, I'm sure, and definitely after. She used to come to get somebody to come to the house and braid her hair down to her behind. And they wasn't no $200. I think the most my mother might have paid at any given time was between 80 and 100. But she got somebody to come to the house and do her hair until I learned, because I was like, huh, okay. And so I learned to do it, and I stopped because, I mean, that's a whole nother story, but I stopped doing hair because everybody wanted to hook up and nobody wanted to pay. Like, this stuff was taking hours for me. Like, it was taking me 4 or 5 hours to do some 200s. And I was a kid. I was young and I wanted to go outside, and I did not want to be doing hair all day. And even when I was a young adult, it just consumed so much of my day that, and I could have built quite a clientele. I wasn't interested. Like I told you, I have inspiration everywhere. I have tried quite a bit of things, and I want to share what I know and maybe learn some more and share that too. And we're going to do it, the we that is in here. Now, if you hear me say we, it is just me and the thoughts that run around up here. If I have to explain how many trains are running at the same time, no, I'm sorry, how many tracks this one train is on, then this might not be the podcast for you, because I'm gonna switch, and I need you to, I need when I move, I need you to dance with me. I need us to tango, and if we're gonna change the step, I need you to catch me, because I'm gonna keep on going, right? So, welcome to the amusement park, a source of creativity, inspiration, and growth. Shine your light over here with me, and let's see what happens in the glow. Until next time, I'll see you on the flip side. Bye, guys.